Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well despite this disgusting weather. Is it raining? Is it not? I don't know. What is going on? Today though, I thought I would take you through some more absolute game changers for your houseplants. Things that I have learned and discovered over the years that have allowed me to grow literally hundreds of plants year round without too much drama. But first, if you're new here, hi, my name's Claire and this is Yoli. I make videos all about houseplant care, sharing tips and tricks I've learned over the years to help keep your plants happy and healthy. And yeah, if you like this video and want to know even more game changers, then I will link part 1 down below. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. So, as I always say with these kind of videos, the things that I'm going to take you through are in no particular order, but I thought I would start out with one of the things that has been the most game-changing for me in my collection and has just saved me so much time apart from anything, and that is biological pest control. And I have made specific videos on biological pest control before. If you've got any questions, you most likely do because it's a little bit weird. I will link that video down below. But I am always getting questions from you guys when you watch my videos saying like, what are those little sachets that you've got in amongst your plants? And essentially it is, as I say, pest control / pest treatment. They're commonly known as predatory mites, and they are essentially very little, like microscopic critters that will come out of these little colony bags and they will eat any pests that you've got on your plants. The two that I deal with the most in my collection are thrips and spider mites, and as you will know if you have experienced them yourself, once they get going, they can spread like wildfire, and getting them under control can be really, really difficult. So yeah, I've actually got these on subscription. I had them on subscription, I think about a year ago when I was living back at the flat. And after about 6 months, I was like, the issues are solved. I don't deal with pests anymore. And so I cancelled my subscription. And then lo and behold, about 3 months later, all of the pests started turning up again. So yeah, I now do that. Do that? I do that? We know what I mean. You know what I'm saying. But yeah, these are also pet-friendly, child-safe, non-toxic in every way. They are essentially just like what your plant would have on them if they were growing in their natural habitat. And that is really nowadays what I try and prioritise in my plant collection wherever I can. And that is just creating the best, or replicating, should I say, the best symbiotic relationship between plants, substrate, soil, biological stuff, like all the elements that would be there in nature. And then I just find that I have far fewer issues. So as I say, they save you so much time. They also just mean that you're not having to constantly be spending money on things like systemic pesticides and all of the things that do add up and do cost money and do take up a ridiculous amount of time and are usually ongoing treatments. They just kind of deal with the problem. And you can use them as a preventative, you can use them as an active treatment. I just think they're awesome. But yes, also they're nothing to be scared of. I think the first time I heard predatory mites, I was like, I don't want to release loads and loads of bugs into my home. That sounds horrible and I feel like I'll see them all the time. And actually I haven't seen them at all, apart from occasionally on my plants, and they are smaller than the pests themselves. And yeah, they very much like stay where you put them and die out naturally when they've got rid of the pest and all that sort of stuff. But yes, more information below. But then the next game changer that again has been a massive money saver for me, but has also just been a really lovely, fun thing that I've enjoyed doing, is just revamping things for your plants. And I have said so many times before, one of the main things that I used to do all the time and still do from time to time is just revamp normal nursery pots. I will always just like wrap them in like string or ribbon or anything you like in order to make them look prettier and look like, I don't know, look like a pot that you would go out and buy and spend money on, but you are just revamping something that already exists. I made this one literally just with macrame cord and my glue gun, and it was so easy to do. But then there, again, I've made videos on this, so again, I'll link it down below. But there are so many like DIY pot things that I use in my collection. Both me and Ross quite like using polymer clay, and this is one that I made, which is a little pot at the top. And it just adds character to your plant collection, and again, costs next to nothing to do. The other thing as well, in terms of plant stands, and I do talk all about this in the video that I'll link below, but when it comes to plant stands, I love the look of things like vintage stools and like things that have a bit of character, but again, can often be quite expensive to buy. And I just started buying like cheap, like this was just a cheap plywood stool, and I have just like scratched it up a bit. I've got some like sandpaper and I got scissors, and I've just like blotched it with paint, and I've given it quite a lot of character and made it look like kind of quite a fun, authentic, earthy thing to have in my plant collection. Yeah, and as I say, like I am very much into like crafty things as well as planty things, and I think the creativity of doing stuff with plants often feeds into crafts, and it's just again a much more sustainable way of doing things. I know it's not like a practical plant care tip, but it has saved me money, so in turn I can then go and spend money on other plants. So technically it's a game changer in that sense. But then the other thing, and actually I had comments from you guys in the other part of this video that I made. I had comments below the video saying this, and I was like, oh my goodness, that is 100% one to include. And that is investing in a cordless vacuum, or even a handheld little kind of dustbustery type vacuum. When I first moved into my flat, I went from having like a big long plug-in cordy hoover to a cordless one. And when you are doing things with plants and you're spilling soil a lot, and there's just like moments where soil flies across the room and there's stuff everywhere, honestly, having a cordless hoover it just makes life so much easier. I use my vacuum cleaner probably every single day now, and I am not the sort of person that loves vacuuming, but it just makes it feel effortless. This is not sponsored by cordless hoovers, by the way, but I thought that this would actually be quite a good time to mention it, because obviously Christmas is coming up, and after Christmas there's usually a bit of a surge of people wanting to get rid of things because they've got new things for Christmas. So if you have got your eye on a cordless hoover that is a bit expensive, look on Facebook marketplaces, look on eBay, look at those kind of places, and chances are you will find some bargains. I often do that myself when I've got something that I've got my eye on, and I'm like, oh, if I wait till after Christmas, like January time, someone's going to be getting rid of it. So yeah, that is something that has just allowed me to keep my plant collection clean and tidy a little bit more than I would have to if I was like, oh, I guess I'll go and plug it in and move it over here. And yeah, it's just made things way easier. And then another slightly boring one perhaps, but one again that has made my life so much easier, and particularly if you're someone that deals with burnout quite a bit with plants and just wants to make things more efficient, I would say get things like grow lights on timers. Like you can either buy grow light bulbs nowadays that have like timer remotes. I've got a couple of Sansi bulbs that again I'll link below that I use in my collection. I manually turn them on every morning, but I just quite like to do that. But a lot of like all of the shelves you see behind me, all of those grow lights are on timers, and I control them from an app on my phone. Again, if you hop on Amazon, you can get like timer plugs and stuff like that that will connect to your smartphone, and it just gives you less to do. And sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'm in the headspace of like, oh, I just want loads of things to do, and I want to turn on my grow lights and fill my humidifier and dust my plant leaves and treat for pests, and I want to be doing all the things. And then life inevitably gets busy, and I'm just like, oh my God, I have given myself too much. And then it can be really hard to almost like fall back in love with plant care, because it just can start to feel like a bit of a burden. And I'm all for eliminating the elements that make it feel like a burden. So yeah, get things on timers. You can get timers for your humidifiers, you can get timers for grow lights, you can get timers for heat mats, you can get timers for literally everything. And yeah, it's something that I really wish I'd done sooner, because for years I never did it. It's also particularly useful when you go away. Like if you're away on holiday, you can be like, I know that my plants are going to be getting the light they need and whatnot. But yeah, I was really reluctant to do it for ages. I don't know why, but now I have. I will never look back. And then a couple of game-changing items. I know I showed you a couple of products in the last video that I made like this, But the first one is getting yourself an aerosol spray bottle. Again, cheapest chips on Amazon. I think I paid a couple of quid for this and it's lasted me for years and years and years. I use this for everything, but primarily at the moment, I've been using it to treat various fungal and bacterial issues in my plants. I've had a fungicide in there recently. Whenever I get mealybugs, for example, I'll fill it with isopropyl alcohol and I'll spray it all down. And it's just, in fact, there we go. Let's spray that all over myself. It's all natural. It's basically just not hello Yoli. Did the spray bottle alarm you? It's not just like one stream of spraying. It kind of in a very fine mist targets, all of the plants. And I just find that really effective. And I find that it means treatment often doesn't need to be done as often because you are actually targeting, not just in little patches. So yeah, it is something that I use probably a few times a week easily in my plant collection, and I just find really useful to have on hand. Also, I have spoken before, during the darker months, I often use things like Photo Plus, Liquid Gold Leaf's Photo Plus, to help like increase photosynthesis and stuff like that, which actually I should have put on this list as a game changer. I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I often use that, and this is just a really good way of like misting it onto your plants. But yeah, little side note, I will put a picture of the bottle in because I didn't bring the bottle over to show you, but Liquid Gold Leaf, who are a company within the UK, but they do now ship to lots of places in the world. They make a product called Photo Plus, which basically you just mix in with water and you do use as a foliar mist. And it just increases your plant's ability to be able to photosynthesize, which over the darker, colder winter months is a really, really wonderful thing to be able to give to your plants, particularly if you don't want to be running grow lights as much. It's definitely not a replacement for grow lights, but it just means that your plants are essentially able to use the light that they are receiving more effectively. So yeah, didn't even think of that one, but absolute game changer. But then the other product, this one is looking a bit gross because I need to wash it out and kind of clean it a bit. But it's just one of these little squeegee bottles, which again, super cheap and cheerful from Amazon. I will never need to buy another one because it just lasts forever. And I use this for all of my little plants, like this one, that I probably don't want to have to like lift my big old watering can up and water. Particularly useful for like little semi-hydro pots and things like that. Yeah, I just find it so useful for like targeted watering on my smaller plants, particularly if I don't want to have to take them all off the shelves anytime I do anything to them. I'll just be like, cool, we'll just fill up the reservoirs with this. I've got some fertiliser mixed in there at the moment, but yeah, again, every time I water, I will use this. So those are two things that are always out and about in my house. But then another one to just kind of keep things fairly low maintenance for yourself. And again, at this time of year when, I don't know about you guys, but I am feeling just less motivated. I don't know why. I think I go into hibernation mode a little bit. But is grouping plants together that have similar lighting requirements and similar care needs. If you are feeling like, oh my God, getting up and like filling my watering can and going around and doing my plant chores is a lot of effort, knowing that you can kind of target them in batches is quite a useful thing. Like for example, I have grouped a load of my snake plants and aglaonema together at the bottom of the stairs. I've got a couple at the end of my hallway that they need watering around about the same time, which is usually about once a month, but the bottom line is lighting very similar, watering, let them dry out. So usually when one's ready for a drink, the other one will be as well. It's not like I'm having to come over and like lift everything off the shelves and like individually check absolutely everything to the degree I would have to otherwise. Also, just grouping plants together looks really, really lovely. It's a lovely way to kind of naturally help raise the humidity for plants in that area as well, because obviously as plants process water, they transpire and that releases moisture, and that means that they can kind of act like a humidifier for each other, which is really cool. So yes, grouping plants, 100% a tip. I wish I'd known sooner. And this next one's one that I feel like I will probably be able to talk about more as time goes on. It's a fairly new discovery for me. But it is using unconventional trellises. And I brought this Hoya over with this piece of, I believe it's actually grape wood, one of you told me. But yeah, I just think it looks really cool. It looks really natural. Obviously the Hoya hasn't started kind of tendriling to the point I need to kind of make it climb yet. But I often find that with plants such as Hoyas that do require trellises, like I just never like the look of conventional trellises. I know you can get them in like circle shapes and love heart shapes and like all of these fun shapes. And I just don't like the look of them. And I've tried so many over the years. And I just started thinking recently, I'm like, why don't I just get like fun bits of wood, fun bits of like driftwood and stuff? And this isn't just to say you have to just do it for tendriling plants. You could do it for climbing plants as well. And just use that to support them in their growth whilst also looking more naturalistic. And yeah, so far I've done it with a few plants in my collection and I love the look of it. This is my favourite piece of wood, which I actually did not forage. I got it from a reptile shop because a lot of the stuff they use for vivariums is really, really good for your plants. But yeah, it's something I'm really excited to do more of. And if you are feeling the same and you're just not about the whole like clinical trellis, is that the right way of putting it? But like something that looks very man-made and quite like formal. I would encourage you to find some fun wood or like whatever you like, something just to mix it up and just to be able to add a bit of interest to your plants. So yeah, that's something I'm really looking forward to doing more of. And then a plant care game changer that has been so massive for me and something that I never ever would have thought of when I first started getting into plants, but is to investigate flowering sometimes. And I've brought over this little Pallidiflorum, Anthurium pallidiflorum, to show you because as you can see, although its blooms aren't quite as pretty as some other types of plants, it is giving me 2 inflorescences currently. And although you might look at flowers on your plants and be like, oh my goodness, this is such a good thing. This is such an exciting thing. Yes, sometimes it can signal the plant is doing what it is meant to be doing and kind of just continuing the cycle. Sometimes it will also mean that your plant is not happy and it's essentially putting out flowers because it's trying to save itself. It's trying to attract pollinators to come and help it make more of that plant because the mother plant is going to die. And when I look at the state of this plant, and you can see on its leaves, it's covered in rust. This is a fungal thing that I need to deal with. I'm also pretty sure that its roots aren't in the best way. It's just a plant. It also has got this massive stretch of growth here that needs some attention. It's one that clearly needs some help. And I've been putting off doing anything with this plant. That's my own fault. I do just need to get on top of that. But yeah, if you've got a plant that suddenly, out of nowhere, perhaps the plant hasn't been very happy, very healthy, it suddenly starts flowering, I would always investigate further. Unless it's a perfectly happy, healthy plant, I would always do a bit of investigation. That often starts with things like checking the roots, making sure it's got a good root system, making sure that it doesn't need any more space to grow. Spider plants actually are notorious for this. A lot of the time, you know how spider plants will kind of throw off those little like plantlets on those long, I can't remember what they're called actually, but long like umbilical cord type things. A lot of the time that's because your spider plant has become so root bound that the plant isn't getting as much nutrients as it needs and thinks it's going to die. So it starts going, oh my goodness, babies, babies, babies. And we sit there going, oh, look how happy my plant is. So yeah, it's not always something to worry about, but it is just something to take into consideration. And I talk a lot about growing things in glass containers because obviously having a transparent container means that you can monitor the root system better and there's loads of benefits to that. And a lot of the time I do use just like normal jars for this. And you can see this plant here. It's one of my weirdest plants. This one is growing in a jar. And although that can be a really good way to kind of reuse household items, it does also mean that when the root system grows and you need to get that plant out of its container, the lip on the jar means that you can't do that. So if possible, I always say try and use something that is like just like a straight up container and doesn't have this lip because otherwise you're going to have to break it. And here it is. And one of the things that I found to save me, again, having to buy new things specifically for this purpose, is to use old candle containers. Because this is actually a really pretty one, but candle jars typically just go straight up. They don't have the lip at the top. And I will just let a candle burn. And then when it's got like the dregs of the wax in, pour in some boiling water, leave it to sit, and then just discard that. And you've got yourself a really nice container. So again, it is just repurposing what you've already got at home. It's reusing, and you can get them in all different sizes as well. And I often find that although like candles can be expensive, but like big candles versus also big glass containers, when you know the price of big glass containers, which believe me, I have looked into for plants before, you'll know that actually a lot of the time it's quite a good deal. So yeah, I hang on to everything, and this is one of my favorites. But yeah, for lots of my plants that I've got growing in semi-hydro, or perhaps like that when I'm doing kind of like a two-tiered way of growing, I've got semi-hydro on the bottom and soil on top. I just find it a really nice method, and also it just helps to keep everything really neat and tidy and avoids mess, and it just looks cool. So yeah, reuse those candles. And a game changer that I thought I would include, I am a bit of a hypocrite in this area, but if you are perhaps slightly new to houseplants, or you're having issues and you don't know why, maybe this tip is for you. But it is to avoid initially kind of messing with your plants too much when you get new plants in your collection. I know a lot of the time I will receive a new plant in the post, maybe that I've ordered online, and I'll get it and I'll be like, oh, I'm just excited to do things to you, and let's repot you, and let's put you here, and let's do all this stuff. And actually, as your plant acclimates, kind of adjusts to its new environment, particularly if it's one that's come in the post and it's had like a few days in transit, the worst thing you can do is start really messing with it. A lot of the time, you just need to let the plant be. Don't repot, don't do anything major, don't try and like chop it back or immediately propagate it or anything like that. The only times I would say do jump in and do this is, firstly, if you didn't ship the plant, if you did go and pick it up yourself and you know it's had quite a stable journey and you're bringing it into stable conditions, then it's usually okay to do that. But also, if you can see that there is something going wrong with the plants, like if you suspect that there might be root rot, if you can see that the plant is like a rescue plant, for example, and it's got foliage that's dying off, then maybe you do want to jump in there right away and do things. But I would just say, if you do choose to do that, just prepare for drama. Prepare for drama. I sometimes can't help myself, and I do just do it anyway. Sometimes it's fine, and sometimes I kind of kick myself and I go, oh my goodness, I really wish I'd waited. So that's just a little proceed with caution, I would say. And another little care thing that I did actually, again, make a video in depth about recently, but is get to the bottom of leaf spots. Usually when something starts going really wrong with a plant, the first sign you will see is what's going on with the leaves. You might notice like strange shapes start to appear, or like cracked edges, or like weird yellow spots or something like that. And usually every single one of them has a different meaning and is actually signaling something much greater that's going on with the plant. A lot of the time that can again be down to the roots of your plant. And I personally would say, if you're not sure, always check the roots first, because when the roots are gone, you're going to potentially have a hard time getting that plant back. So that's always my first port of call. But for example, this plant I've got here next to me, this one I spoke about recently, saying that it looks like it's perhaps got fungal issues, and this actually is down to something completely different. That was actually pest related. So it is just a really good idea to investigate these things. And I think if you're in it for the long run and you are a planty person, like learn to spot the signs so that next time your life is easier. Like that's one of the things that I've enjoyed the most about learning about plants and experimenting and chatting to other people in the community. That is just figuring out how to kind of know when my plant is signaling something to me. As I say, I made a video specifically about root rot, fungal issues, bacterial issues, all that sort of stuff recently that hopefully breaks it down and makes it quite understandable. So again, I'll link it down below. But yeah, don't ignore these things when you see them. Sometimes in the past, I've been like, that leaf is looking awful. I'm just going to chop the leaf and forget about it. And then a lot of the time it will move on to the next leaf. And then you're kind of just shoving the problem to one side. So yeah, investigate, get to the bottom. And another thing that I always do, and I wish I had hoarded more in this department over the years, is keep containers such as this. I use things like this to propagate in. This, I think, just like I got it and it was full of olives or something. But I was like, that's a really cool container. It's obviously sealed, it's transparent, so you can monitor things, and I could make a little prop box out of this. So yeah, keeping the things that you've already got that you get in for like food waste and stuff like that. Like, it's just, again, reusing, great for the environment, great for your plants. But also going around charity shops and seeing what they've got, because I showed you this recently, but I came across this weird, I don't even know what it was originally meant for, but this weird glass container. I got it for only a couple of pounds, and it's got a cork jar at the top. And I was like, I can make this into a really awesome terrarium. So yeah, I think just like investigate what is available, and you don't have to go out and spend loads of money on, like, thrift. Find cool things that add interest to your plant collection, but also serve the purpose of keeping your plants happy. Because yeah, I'm actually now thinking that maybe I might run like a piece of cork bark or something up the back of this, and I might create like a space for a really cool shingling plant to climb up or something. And that's something that if you were to look at new in like a houseplant shop or like a specialised place, you'd probably pay a lot of money for. So yeah, I personally keep everything like that. I know, yeah, you can recycle them, but I just find this a more fun way of recycling. And it's also just stuff that you're always needing. Like, I'll be repotting an alocasia and I'll find loads of corms, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I need a prop box now. And then I've just got them. So yeah, not that I'm encouraging you to hoard, but hoard things like that. And then this next one really has been a game changer for me. And I know some of you won't want to hear it, but then again, some of you might need to hear it. And that is, give plants away if they're not bringing you joy anymore, or if you're feeling overwhelmed, for example. I, again, as a planty person, spent years and years and years being like, no, I don't want to give up that plant, and no, I know that one's not looking great, but I really don't want to. And so I held on to so many things, again, hoarding in the wrong way. I held on to so many things that I didn't have the ability to be able to look after because there was just too many of them. Things started going wrong. I couldn't properly focus on the issues. And I ended up just getting myself really overwhelmed and really burnt out, to the point that I was like, I don't want to go back to my plants because everything feels like a struggle. And over really kind of the last year, I've got so much better at clearing things out. If something is doing really badly and I don't have the energy to rehab it, I might throw it in the bin, or I might compost it, which is something I never would have done before. If I've got a really lovely plant that I just don't really want anymore, I will give it to a neighbour, I'll give it to a friend, I'll pop it on Facebook Marketplace. And actually, although I know the angle I'm filming at now, it looks very, very planty, but I do have a much smaller collection than I have done in years at the moment. I think I'm definitely under 300, which for me is good. It is a manageable number considering I do this full time and I have more time than most to dedicate to plants. But yeah, it's just something that I really wish I could have known sooner that isn't a bad thing. It's really not a bad thing. And the really cool thing as well about getting rid of plants is that then you have so much more time and energy to dedicate to the ones that you know you truly love, and you actually are able to provide more room for them to be able to grow big and happy and healthy. And for that reason, I think although yeah, I've got a smaller collection right now, I have also got some giant plants that I really like and do bring me a lot of joy, but I don't have to do quite as much too. So yes, if you are feeling a bit burnt out, I would highly encourage you to just get rid of one or two, because it does make you feel better. But yes, as I say, I made another video, very similar structure to this, part one, that I will link down below, that has loads more houseplant hacks, things that I wish I'd known sooner, just things that have been absolute game changers for me and my plant collection. If I've missed any as well, comment them down below. Let me know what some of yours have been, and let me know if you want a part 3 to this, because I enjoy making videos like this. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.
Stay sexy, plant lovers.